So we're going to start out here with the NFC North, and we'll go right ahead and start with the Packers. And I have the Packers winning the NFC North at 11-5. Now they signed linebacker Christian Kirksey, tackle Rick Wagner, wide receiver Devin Funchess, and they re-signed Mason Crosby and Tyler Ervin. But they did lose Jimmy Graham, the tight end. He's a great tight end, and it was a tough loss. Now they've got a nice addition in Christian Kirksey defensively, and it seems they made up for at least some of the loss of Jimmy Graham. I mean, Jimmy Graham is a great target for Aaron Rodgers to hit, as well as a great blocker. And it seems they made up for at least some of that great target aspect with another wide receiver behind Davante Adams in Devin Funchess, who, while he is no number one target in this league, he is still a nice, versatile number two threat. And I like that, and I like how the Packers are sitting right now. I like their team. They didn't lose too much, and they didn't gain too much either. I think they'll sit at right around the same skill set. They have a little bit of a tougher schedule this year, though, so I have them sitting at 11-5. Now, second in the NFC North, comes to no surprise, is the Vikings. Now, they extended Kirk Cousins and their Pro Bowl fullback, C.J. Ham. They re-signed Dakota Dozier, guard center Brett Jones, their running back Amir Abdullah, punter Britton Colquitt, and a few other bench warmers. And then they lost Stephon Diggs, cornerback Trey Waynes, defensive tackle Linval Joseph, cornerback Xavier Rhodes, guard Josh Klein, defensive end Everson Griffin, and cornerback Mackenzie Alexander. Now, one thing you notice from that is that they lost 3 cornerbacks. That's a big loss to take. They also lost a big-time defensive end in Everson Griffin and a big-time deep threat in Stephon Diggs. Now, they signed on Tajay Sharp to what I suppose is to help fill that gap of Stephon Diggs in the pass game. Now, it won't be an immediate fit because, as we know, Tajay Sharp is no Stephon Diggs, but it will help in repairing what seems to be a broken receiving core right now. They also signed on defensive end Anthony Zettel, again, possibly to help fill that gap of Everson Griffin. Now, it's very hard to replace some of the players they lost, so don't expect those positions to be better or even the same as they were last year, but do expect that they won't take too much of a hit from those. My main reason for this is, despite all their losses, they had some decent gains as well. And although what is obvious is that the losses outweigh the gains, what will keep this loss-filled offense at 11-5 is the new offensive coordinator Gary Kubiak. I feel like the talent at Minnesota offensively has been widely wasted through poor play calling, and I feel like Kubiak can change that. Now, defensively, they won't be as strong, but it won't kill them. I don't believe it'll kill them. They have a good coach in Zimmer, and I believe he will find a way to make that defense worth something. So then we move on to the third team in the NFC North, which is the Chicago Bears. Now, they signed on defensive back Trey Robertson, tight end Demetrius Harris, linebacker Danny Trevathan. They got tight end Jimmy Graham from the Packers, defensive end Brett Urban, defensive back Deion Bush, defensive back Jordan Lucas, defensive back DeAndre Houston, O-lineman German Ifedi, linebacker Robert Quinn, defensive end Roy Robertson, defensive back Sherrick McManus, and a few other bench warmers. And they lost Trey Burton, who is a very solid tight end, linebacker Leonard Floyd, defensive back Prince Amukamara, and wide receiver Taylor Gabriel. So it's an interesting situation for the Bears because they signed on a lot of players, but not a ton of big-name guys. And what I mean by big-name guys is guys who are really solid starters that can improve your team. They didn't sign a ton of those guys. It seemed they tried to make up for the losses of Trey Burton, Leonard Floyd, and Prince Amukamara, and wide receiver Taylor Gabriel, despite the fact that they didn't sign another wide receiver, which I think they should at least draft one. And they traded for Foles as well. Now, different than the Vikings, the gains definitely outweigh the losses, although I do feel like there will be some quarterback controversy holding them out of the playoffs. Now, I believe at some point Trubisky's going to be benched. He's not a great quarterback. He's not great at all. He shouldn't have been drafted as high up as he was. And obviously his talent has not shifted to the Bears very nicely. I mean, last year he had a few games where he had some nice games. But despite those flashes of greatness, he has not shown that he can sustain it. And I believe that due to that, at some point this upcoming season, he will be benched for Foles, and Foles will then eventually be benched for Trubisky again. I feel like it'll be kind of a switch back and forth. it'll be a large storyline for the Bears, probably the largest one, and it's ultimately going to be what holds back the Bears from winning. I think that they'll win more games with Foles than they do with Trubisky, but I do also believe that Foles will at some point flutter out and lose a couple games in a row, throw a lot of picks, and then Trubisky is going to be forced back in. So then we move on to last in the NFC North. Something that doesn't come to surprise to a lot of people nowadays are the Lions. Now, they signed a lot of players. Offensive tackle, Halapalidi Vitae, offensive tackle. Linebacker, Jamie Collins from the Patriots. Defensive tackle, Nick Williams. Quarterback, Chase Daniel. Defensive tackle, Danny Shelton. Cornerback, Desmond Trufant. Safety, Jerion Kearse. Wide receiver Jeremy Davis, linebacker Reggie Ragland, linebacker Elijah Lee, wide receiver Geronimo Allison, cornerback Darryl Roberts. They traded for the Patriots safety Duron Harmon, but they also lost an offensive guard in Graham Glasgow, a running back in J.D. McKissick, and a defensive tackle Nashawn Robinson, as well as a backup tight end in Logan Thomas. Now, they gained a lot of nice talent. I mean, truly. I mean, you look at it, Danny Shelton, Desmond Trufant, Jamie Collins, Vitae. Those are all great, solid starters. Even Nick Williams is. But on the other side of it, and also Duron Harmon, can't forget about that. But also on the other side of it, it's going to be interesting to see how the season plays out. I see the Lions ceiling at maybe 8-8, 9-7. Do they get there? Maybe. But if I had to bet my money on how often the Lions hit their ceiling, I would say no. That's why I have them at 6-10 and last in the NFC North. I'd love to say that these improvements are going to finally pay out for Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford's going to have a decent team around him. He's going to be able to make a run for the playoffs. But just with the Lions' history, when they do have talent, I just don't feel like it's going to pan out the way that hype often says it will.